Okay, I'm going to admit everybody. Ahí está, Lisandro is there as well. That's good. Okay. So Ali, could you let people in? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We're going to wait one more minute for people to join in because we are expecting more people. But welcome to this webinar on how to complete the Opportunity Funds 2024 application. The idea is that today we go over the whole application form, and you will listen to the protagonists of these each year's cohorts advice on how to do this and improve your chances of being selected. My name is Carolina Talatinian. I'm the country coordinator for the Education USA program here in Argentina. And with us, there's Alisa Iacono. She's the Education USA advisor at UCA. And Maria from the Education USA advisor at Mendoza is there as well. On the previous webinar, we did introduce ourselves, and we strongly encourage you to watch the previous webinar if you haven't on our Opportunity Funds 2024 launch, where we explain everything in detail, right? The Opportunity Fund Scholarship, we introduce ourselves, we talked about success stories. So if you haven't watched that, you're more than welcome to watch it on our YouTube channel, and it's also on our website. So we're going to go ahead and start. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to refresh our memory as to who we are. We're going to very briefly go back to the requirements and benefits of the scholarship, and then we're going to plunge into the application form and our current candidates will be giving you their advice on what to include, what not to include. They will give you examples. And for each section, we're going to stop and answer questions. Okay, so I think all the candidates are here. I think we have Mili Ruiz, we have Mili Olivera, and I think we have Lisandro. And I'm not sure if Sasha could make it yet. But could you guys take it in turns to introduce yourselves? Tell the viewers here who you are, where you're at right now, where you're from, and what you hope to study in the US. Mili, do you want to start? Mili Ruiz?
Sure, yeah. Okay, my name is Milagros Ruiz Ludwig. I go to a German school. I live in Capital, and now I'm applying to STEM majors, like engineering or math, in the US in many schools.
Thank you, Mili. Lisandro, are you over there?
Yes, here I am. Well, my name is Lisandro. I'm from Capital Federal too. I am a student at an agricultural school here in University of Buenos Aires, and I'm trying to go to the US to study bioengineering or agricultural sciences.
Thank you, Lisandro. And Mili Olivera.
Hi, I'm Milagros Olivera. I'm from Mirazatei, in the south of the province of Buenos Aires. And well, I'm trying to apply for to study cognitive science in the US.
Thank you, Mili. Okay, so today you're meeting 3 out of our 5 candidates. And this year, on 2023, it was very hard for us to create even if we love our candidates, right? You know, guys, we love you. We always try to have a more federal cohort, right? We have to try to have, we love having representation from different provinces in our country. So hopefully all the people who are on the other side of the screen, we hope that wherever you're from. You can write it in the chat too. You can spread the word about this opportunity so that we have more representation of candidates from all around the country, as we have had in previous cohorts, right? So if you want to know more stories about our candidates from different provinces in different cohorts, watch the previous session if you didn't watch it. So we're going to start with the agenda because it's a very complete agenda, and I don't want to keep you waiting. So most of you know already, hopefully, what Education USA is, but if some people are learning about our existence right now, well, Education USA is a Department of State network with more than 430 centers in more than 170 countries, and our main aim is to promote higher education in the US, offering quality information about all the opportunities of study in the US. Yes, we are the official source of information regarding US studies. And the first place to go is educationusa.state.gov. In our country, we have 7 centers, and you can learn all about our programs in our country in educationusa.org.ar. Okay. And we provide a wide range of services. We provide one-on-one advising, we provide workshops, we provide different sessions, information sessions, and we provide resources for exams and visas in general. Okay, so if you're learning about us, go to educationusa.state.gov and educationusa.org.ar, and there you'll have all the basic information, the starter pack for the Education USA experience. Let's put it that way. But today we are focusing on the Opportunity Fund Scholarship, which is a scholarship focused on supporting excellent students, involved students financially so that they can apply to universities in the US. Yes, so the idea is that this program pays for the first expenses that you're going to have when applying. You know, the application process has expenses. So what we do is we cover all those expenses in the hopes that you are going to get these very important scholarships that the universities in the US give. Now, if you haven't been in one of our 5 steps, talks, please do participate in one, either in person or watch one in our YouTube channel, because that will give you the context that you need to start to consider applying to university in the US. So my first advice I'm going to give you today is do not answer this form if you have not participated or watched a 5-step session. That 5-step session is going to give you the background information that you need to understand why we are asking all the things that we are asking, okay? So as I mentioned, as we mentioned in our previous session, to be able to, one of the requirements of the Opportunity Fund Scholarship is being an Argentine citizen, graduating in 2024, having a good GPA, having leadership roles, not being able, of course, to pay for the application process. The application process more or less takes between $1,000 to $2,000. So if you can't afford that, then you are eligible to apply for the Opportunity Funds Scholarship. Have a very good level of English. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And of course, be willing to do this, okay? It's 4 years abroad. So you have to be very sure, and you have to discuss this project with your family, right? It's not something that you decide oh yeah, I'm going to do this. We strongly suggest that you talk about this with your family before applying, okay? Don't do this by yourself. And of course, well, here's a list of the things that you get, but basically is the financial support through the whole application process and a lot of very guided help from the Education USA advisors, from previous Opportunity Fund students, and from other advisors in the region. So we're not going to focus a lot on the benefits or the requirements because we had a whole webinar for that. If you have questions, if you have questions after this webinar, or if you you start completing the application form and you see that you have some questions, there's also the office hours that you can come and visit us and talk to us and ask all the questions that you have. Okay, take advantage of December because most probably January we won't be offering office hours because everybody's away on holiday. Okay, so first word of advice, if you have questions and if you want to take advantage of the office hours, come now during December. Okay, so without much further ado, we're going to plunge into the form. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to show you the application form. Oh, so before doing that, wait. I wanted to share one more slide. Well, something's going on here. Okay, so if you wanna access the registration form, you can scan the QR code, but you won't be able to see the whole thing if you don't complete the first part, right? So what we're going to do today is we're going to show you the whole registration form so that you can have a look at it in advance without having to complete it, because we don't want you to complete this in a rush, okay? We want you to take time to complete this step by step, thinking about what you're writing, going over it, right? And going back to it so that you have more chances of being selected. On our website, there's also an agenda, the schedule, the whole schedule for the application process, okay? We're not going to cover that today. It's available on our website as well. So now, yes, we are going to start with the going over the application form. So the first thing you're going to see is this whole text you're seeing in your screen right now, which is kind of a disclaimer, right? Like all the requirements, all the benefits. It's, as you see, everything's in English. So we encourage you to read it in detail. And the first word of advice is, as you see, the whole thing is in English, right? You will have to complete this in English as well, okay? We have already received responses in Spanish. Those people who have responded in Spanish will be eliminated. We're not going to read those applications. They are immediately eliminated. So please respond in English. I know it's silly for me to say so, but we have eliminated, like every year we eliminate like 10 people just because they answered in Spanish. Okay. Of course, you can write a couple of words in Spanish. Some words, they don't have translations in English. Some words, it's just like names, right? We understand that. But make a priority to respond in English, not in Spanish. So the first section is all personal data, okay? It's very clear, straightforward information about who you are, information about your parents. This is an important question. Bueno, this is an important question if you're a citizen of Argentina or not, because only Argentine citizens are eligible for the Opportunity Fund Scholarship. If you're an American, if you have a double citizenship, if you're an American and an Argentinian, unfortunately, you can't apply to the Opportunity Funds program, okay? So, and if you have a different nationality, there are different there are different Education USA centers in different countries, okay? So look for the one in your country and apply there. And most of the countries which have Education USA centers also have the Opportunity Fund Scholarship. So it's important that the contact information is correct. We have had issues in the past with the contact information. We want to let you know that you've been selected and then the information there is wrong. So please be careful there. We also want to know where you live, the province where you live. This is very important for us as well, because as I said before, we want to have a federal cohort of students. So we're also going to ask you about questions regarding your family, your family education. Okay, so this is a question on your parents' education. Has one or both of your parents graduated from university? What we consider university is a 4-year college or more. Okay, profesorados, if they were 4 years, they are considered graduated from university. Okay. Terciarios, 3 years or more or less? No. Okay. So that's for you to take into account. This is because some universities like to know if you're first generation students or not. First generation means your parents didn't go to college, okay? And some universities pay attention to that. So we try to emulate what you're going to do if you try to apply to a university in the US. A lot of the information that you're going to see here, you'll also see it when you apply to universities in the US. And then the education of your siblings. Second section is high school information. Again, very simple information. The name of your high school, if your high school is public or private. If it's private with subvención, you can write that in the other. You know, many schools are privadas con subvención estatal. You can put that in the other section. Again, where you go to school. If there's a weird thing here, sometimes you say that so where you live is where you're living now, not what your DNI says. Okay? Because we have kids saying that they were from, for example, city of Buenos Aires, and then they went to school in Córdoba. And we were like, okay, so the previous question is where you live, no la dirección del DNI. Okay? That's very important. Good. Then the high school address, the cost of your the cost of your high school per month, okay? And you're going to see that we're going to ask a lot of questions that at first it might be a little bit shocking. Oh, well, are they asking me all these questions about my financial situation, right? And this is because we need to make sure that you fit the financial profile, because this is a financial aid scholarship plus an academic scholarship, right? So this is important for us to know. So again, if you receive a scholarship in your high school, we need to know the percentage of the scholarship and the expected graduation date. That's very important because we're only the students who are graduating in November or December 2024 are eligible to apply to the Opportunity Fund Scholarship. If you're graduating this year or last year, you're not eligible, unfortunately, to apply for the Opportunity Fund Scholarship. If you're graduating in 2025, you will have to wait for the following year, okay? So GPA, this is the first problematic section we have. Why? Because of COVID. Well, now it's a little bit more, it's easier because by now most schools turned the apreciaciones or the way they chose to grade you into grades. But if that's not the case in your school, what you're going to do is calculate the years that you have a grade, and then work out the average. Okay, primero, segundo, tercero, you work out the average of all the grades that you have a yearly grade, and then you work out the average of that. Okay, we understand that given COVID, some schools have to make some decisions regarding the grading, but we are aware of that. Don't worry about it. Just work out the average with whatever grades you have, taking into consideration all your years in high school, all of them. Okay, to apply to universities in the US, it might be a little bit different, but for the sake of this application, we're going to do that. Start gathering your report cards. If you make it to the second part, the second part of the application, the second stage, we are going to require you upload your report cards. So if you don't have them, or if you have lost any of them, make sure that you ask your school for those report cards now, because then in January, you won't be able to get those. Everybody will be away on holiday and you won't be able to get that from your school. Class ranking, many schools do abanderados, escoltas, using the average, the GPA. The class ranking has to do with where you are in regarding grade, like in which stage, in which rank. So primero, segundo, tercero, right? And some schools use the abanderados and escoltas system to do that. But many schools don't do that. Don't do class ranking, or don't do abanderados or escoltas, or they have their classmates choose who are going to be abanderados or escoltas. So anything that happens at your school, this is the moment to explain it. Okay. Does your school offer IB courses, AP courses, A levels? So if those words don't ring a bell with you, it means that you don't have them at school. Okay, so don't worry about it. If you the IB, if you have the IBs, and you probably hate it, right, Millie? So if you don't know them, just write no. Okay. And now it's the moment where I'm going to stop talking. Well, I'm going to present this, but then our candidates are going to be talking more, because this is the extracurricular activities list. Why do we ask for a list of extracurricular activities? If you have been following us, you already know that in the application process for universities in the US, the process is what they call holistic, right? It's not that they are just seeing your GPA, your promedio. That's not enough. They want to know what is it that you do after class, apart from what is obligatory to graduate from school. What is it that you do with your free time? Do you get involved in other kinds of classes, in sports? Do you participate in church groups, scoutism activities, volunteering activities? What is it that you do? Take care of siblings? Do you have family responsibilities? What is it that you do besides what's obligatory for school? And for that, I'm going to invite our candidates. Maybe let's start with the Millies, Millie Ruiz and Millie Olivera. And then Lisandra, I'm going to ask you to talk about leadership activities, okay? To give a couple of examples of what you wrote there. Millie Ruiz, do you want to start?
Sure. Extracurricular activities, I wrote math Olympiads. I participated there for all years that are possible. I also did some science competitions with my school. Then I played the guitar. I play volleyball at school and for some years at a club. I also did some volunteering projects at school, which were part of a bigger solidarity action program. I also did, I'm forgetting, a project about including different kinds of people and groups and communities at school. I did other volunteering stuff outside of school in some institutions. And I learned languages outside of school, but that was more independent. I'm probably forgetting something, but those were
It's
some of
okay.
the
Those
things
are
I wrote
great
about.
examples. What about you, Mili Olivera?
Well, what I will say, maybe as a tip to give some advice, is that I try to focus maybe on the things I did that were related to what I wanted to study, so that you can show that you have interest in that. Well, Millie also had a lot of things that were related to what she wants to study, so I think that's really useful. When you have to write the essays later, it's also useful because they can see that everything is connected in some way with your interests. So maybe focus more on that. Of course, volunteering and a lot of things you can do are important, but maybe focus on what you're really into and what is more related to what you want to do in the future.
Yay, Sasha's here as well. So Sasha, we'll have you speak in a few seconds and introduce yourself as well. Mili, can you give an example of an activity that you say, oh, this is connected to what I want to study?
Yeah, sure. Well, I participated in different programs related to psychology, also to learn how to make an impact, and I use them. I work with that to do different projects as regards mental health at school, just to focus on that. I had a project related to that, and I think that was an important one, as well as a program that was mainly focused on psychology, and also programs related to coding or more related to technology, as cognitive science is like it mixes both things, neuroscience, psychology, and also technology. So I try to find the relation between them in my projects.
Definitely. Thanks, Mili. So it's not that you have to gear everything towards that. You're allowed to have other like things that you like for example, Lisandro plays the saxophone, right? And he does not want to major in music, right? But it's things that make who you are, and it's a way to show how you can contribute to the university community, right? Not only from an academic perspective, but also from a personal level. On a personal level, how you can contribute to the school environment. Okay, so Sasha, hey, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell them where you're from, what you hope to study in the US. And then do you remember which of the activities that you listed was the most important to you and why? Do you remember that part? Can you?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Sasha. I'm from Buenos Aires. I'm actually, right now, I'm at school. I study at the Escuelas Técnicas Ragio, and I want to study biochemistry or chemistry in the US. When I wrote about my extracurricular activities, I remember that I put the Olympiads. I'm at the chemistry Olympiads at school since my first year. So I learned a lot and made a lot of friends and connections, and I had a lot of things to say. But I know that it's not the same for a lot of people. Maybe you don't have that kind of programs available at your school, or you discover them later on. It's not necessary that you have like a super long history or anything like that. It just needs to be something that you really like, or something that you're passionate about, or something that you feel you can write, not only because of the time you spend, but the things you have to say about that activity. Like maybe you did a language for a year, but in the year you discovered how much you like to communicate with people or learn about other cultures, and you have a lot of things to say about that. So yeah, that you have to you have to find something. For me, the easiest way to write this kind of thing is find something that you really are passionate about, or that you say, like, if someone came to me and asked me about the thing, I could talk to them about hours. Well, turn that speech that you will give that person into text. It usually works well.
Yeah, there's a question that follows this later on, I think, that could also that piece of advice could also work for that one. So remember what Sasha just said, okay? Okay, cool. In this section, then we have a question about working. Do you work currently, or have you ever worked in the past? And we are aware of the fact that it's not legal to work when you're 18 years, if you're not 18 years old, but in many circumstances, students have to work or want to work, or they have participated in some kind of paid internship, okay? So here we are willing to know if you have been doing anything, any work that has been paid, okay? Which is different from all the voluntary work that you've done before, okay, that you've described before. So I think, Mili, you have done some tutoring. Sasha, I don't remember. Lisandra, did you write any work? I don't remember.
Neither. I don't remember too. Like, I think I put like something I did in one of the summers, like a detail, but I don't think it's a must to complete. If you don't have any work, it's completely
don't
okay.
Don't invent, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have the awards section. And again, I'm going to, Lisandro, if you wanna take this one, but here, well, justo. Well, you have some awards or not, Lisandro?
Yes, there are some mentions. Well, the award section is for all the things or the recognitions you have, either from the school but always for something you did like extracurricularly. If you are abanderado, you will put it in this section where they ask for it. But here, well, any recognition, any major recognition, like I had dairy Olympiads, the Olimpiadas de Lechería, and I had we were in the third place in school, and I put it because it was one of the honors I got. And well, then sports tournaments, I wrote that I had some medals in archery and so, but it's a good section to show what you have achieved and to use put things you haven't put in the extracurricular activities list, because well, there are some details that they may not count as an activity you did for a long period of time, but you have like an award or a recognition for that, and that is a good place to write about.
Thank you, Lisandro. One thing I didn't mention, but it's mentioned all throughout the form, is that you have to be good at summarizing when you're doing this, because you don't have more than 1,000 characters, not words, okay? So use a character count somewhere. You can use Google Docs, or there are many character counters on the web, right? So make sure that you choose those activities that are really representative of you, that are important to you, and that you are able to summarize, because that's one of the skills that you are going to need to complete a successful application when you're doing your applications to universities in the US. Okay?
Yes, something I learned in the application process is sometimes you don't need full sentences. Maybe it's contradictory because you say like, oh, it's an academic thing, I have to write like, well, no, like you can say I studied at the Olympiads and won blah blah blah. or something very like short, and for example, volunteered and made this project. Be very concise and short with your answers. Don't like worry about being like well worded or something. It's more about the content than the way you write.
And showing impact, right? Because sometimes you're giving a lot of details about certain things, but then you don't show impact. For example, I organized an event for 100 people. It's not the same as saying I organized the parade of, I don't know, the summer parade. Estoy inventando cualquiera, ¿no? I organized the summer parade at school, then I organized a summer parade for more than 100 people, 500 people, okay? So there's a difference there. So details, succinct details is the key here. Okay. And Mili Ruiz, can you mention a couple of your words?
Yes. Now I didn't write it when I applied to Opportunity, but I will write it now for the weird application to the US. I won a medal at International Olympiads. Then I was finalist with my team in a science competition in Germany. I have a mention from Model UN in Brazil. We won also a German film festival with a team from my school. And I don't know what else. I think another thing from
just a couple of examples. You don't need to have a list of 50 awards, right? Or not even 10. It's just there are different kinds of profiles, right? And we want to give you different examples so that you get what you get what we are asking for here. Okay. So leadership activities. I would like Lisandro and Sasha here to talk a little bit about what kind of leadership activities you took part in.
Well, I start. I think in the application to opportunity funds, I wrote about my like student government at school. When the pandemic came, I was one of the students that brought to life again the student center after it was kind of abandoned. So I wrote about how I connected with people and gave like talks and presentations and went into like the different classes and said like, hey, we're having an election. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it's for? But I think you can write about like any activity or any time that you work with people. For me it was very difficult to like write this part because I was like a science guy and I wasn't like very involved in like volunteering or anything. But if you have like any time that you remember, hey, I took the initiative to like work with these people, and or I wanted to have a project at my school, and I asked teachers and people to help me. I think that any activity in which you made like a connection with anyone or have the initiative to do something works.
Yeah. Sasha mentioned here a keyword, taking initiative. We are looking for students who are proactive and take initiative. Why? Because if you go to study in the US, you'll be there by yourself. I mean, universities in the US have a lot of student support, but the person who will move around and going to ask for help, it's going to be you. So first thing, one suggestion before we pass on to Lisandro is the first thing you have to do is take initiative of this application process. There are many times when we have parents writing on behalf of you, right? And that's okay that your parents help you, but the one doing the asking should be you, not your parents. Because if your parents write to us, you're showing us that you lack initiative. You have to do it, okay? First suggestion, okay? Of course, do involve your parents. Let them know that you're doing this. Ask for their help, right? But take initiative of this process as well. Lisandro, you want to go ahead and tell them about your leadership activities?
Yes, of course. And before that, I wanted to also tell, for those that have a lot of extracurricular activities or honors or things they have done during high school, that choose the most important of all of them and try to make an insight of what values and things they show from you. Because if I start like repeating that I work in the student government in like many different areas, I'm giving an insight about me that's different from the one that I could really have if I said that I work in the student government, I play an instrument, I also I'm an organizer in a student union that is nationwide, and well, that's a thing to think about when writing all of these things. And now from my personal experience in this part, I wrote about my time in Estudiantes Organizados. That's an organization, a student organization that was born by the end of the pandemic. And I've been like writing legislative projects and giving some interviews and coordinating students from all over the city, because I work in the organization I work in the organization here in Capital Federal, and all the things I have done there, I listed them in this part, so I could show all the aspects I couldn't earlier in the application, because, well, I had to list the extracurriculars, I had to list the honors, and here is like, if you had a strong leadership position in an organization, in your students' government, or any other activities that were in groups and you take a leadership role, this here is the place to put them. They don't have to be like an international or super pro thing to show that you are a leader, but with having participated in your student government, creating a club within your student government or in your community, or simply generating something in a team to provide to your community, to your school, to your friends, to your family. Those are great examples to use here.
Thank you, Lisandro. I couldn't have put it better. Thank you very much. So I'm not seeing questions, okay? Make sure that you take advantage of the fact that you have 3 advisors and 4 Opportunity Fund students here to answer questions, okay? So if you have questions, you can start writing them in the chat. And when we finish with section 3, we're going to stop and answer some questions, and then we're going to go over with the second part, okay? Okay, so section 3 is the English language proficiency section. Okay, so we understand that you might have taken any proficiency exams, or you might have not, because if you're applying for a financial aid scholarship as this one, you might not have been able to pay for an international exam. Sometimes families make a big effort for you to sit for those, or sometimes students decide to work and pay for those exams with the money that they got from working, right? They're different realities. So if you did sit for any of these international exams or national exams that test your English language level, please put it there, okay? And put the scores. The idea of this section, we are going to later on evaluate your knowledge of the language. The interview is a moment when we evaluate your knowledge of the language, right? You can get help to complete the application form. You can use translators even, right? We won't be there to see. But then one of the ways we will have to evaluate your knowledge will be through the interview, through different written activities, and we may even have an exam, okay? So be realistic with what you answer, because we are going to test it eventually. So tell us where you studied. Some people are self-learners, and that's okay. In many cases, we have had the opportunity to find students who were self-learners, and they were like, look, I did a couple of years at an institute, and then I have to drop it because I couldn't afford it. But I kept on studying by myself. That's completely fine. We just want to know as much as we can to understand your knowledge, your involvement with the English language. So if you read books, magazines, newspapers, please list them. If you ever travel to the US or any other English-speaking country, please explain when and for what purpose. Sometimes you go on school activities, sometimes you get a scholarship to go, sometimes you travel with your family, sometimes it's a gift from your parents, from your grandparents, and you travel with a lot of effort. So we want to know your experience with the English language in many different ways. Okay, so is there anything else I'm forgetting about this section, guys? I don't think so. It's pretty straightforward, but maybe no. Okay, cool. I go on then.
Maybe
Yes.
I would something very short. I would say the things like the blogs, the books, the any content you watch or read in English doesn't have to be academic or very formal for you to list it here. It could be really anything. It could be something silly. It could be, I think I wrote Harry Potter there. I mean, it doesn't have to be something academic or anything like that.
Yeah, and I forget that I didn't write podcasts. We could have included podcasts, It's not reading, but it's also you're connected with the language, right? Music. I'm going to add that next year. Or shows, right? It's just reading here, but we could also add that for fun to change a bit so that we're not always reading the same things, right? Okay,
Sorry,
I'm going to stop for a second. Yes.
I have some questions. I'm writing down all of my questions, but for this section, I think it's better to ask now. In our videos, can we count videos too, like YouTube videos?
So what I said is that I haven't included any audiovisual question. So this is focused on reading. So we're going to leave it like that. But it would have been nice to add, one that is more audiovisual, right? Like videos, audios. I'm going to add that for next years.
Okay.
But you can add that if you do spend a lot of time watching videos that are interesting for you, you can add that in the extracurricular activities list.
I thought of TED Talks. I watched some TED Talks. And I had another question about, I didn't understand how to answer the first two questions. If I sat for the exams, like in the first one, I only put like C1 or...
Oh, okay. So this is great. Thank you for your question, Rafael. Where are you from?
I'm from Capital Federal.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're in the area. So how do you rate your own level of English? That's a good question. You can use the Common European Framework, B1, C2, B2, or you can write intermediate, upper intermediate, advanced, okay? What is our suggestion? Our suggestion is that you at least have a first certificate level, which is a B2 level. But we understand that you may not know what your level of English is because you might not be involved in one of those courses, right? So in that case, you can always take, like, there are English tests online that kind of test your level of English, which are free. You can test use those, or you can ask your English teacher right now, okay, so what would you say is my level of English? And you can write that. If you have an exam, you can list that, and you can list the scores. Of course, if you say that you took TOEFL, PET, or a first certificate, or CAE, we strongly encourage you to share the scores with us, right? But I mean, this is an approximation, as we are aware of the fact that many of you may not be able to sit for the exam, for an international exam. So it's an approximation. We are going to test it later on, okay?
Okay, but my question is more related, like, what is the difference between the first question and the second question?
So how would you rate your own level of English? Intermediate,
Okay.
upper intermediate, advanced, okay? Or C1, B2, B2, and I will be preparing next year for C1, okay? Please, this is where you have studied English. This is what I went to this
No,
institute.
sorry, I was referring to the question on top of that. The first.
Oh, no, this is the title.
Ah, okay, sorry.
Yeah, this is the title. When you see the actual form, les estoy mostrando todo. Les estoy mostrando el back end del form. Okay, so you're not going to see that. You're just going to see the title. But thank you anyway for the question. Okay. Victoria asks, hi, I'd like to know if you can still apply to the opportunity funds if you have a double national. No, you can't. I'm sorry. You can't if you're an American citizen.
Carlo, I think she's asking, sorry, if you're not a US citizen, if you have, for example, Spanish
or Italian, that's no problem.
citizenship.
You at least need to be an Argentine. You have to have the Argentine citizenship. Thank you, Ali. Letters of recommendation, we're not going to ask for letters of recommendation at this stage, okay? You're going to need it for your application process to universities in the US, definitely. But given that the opportunity funds process is in November, December, January, it might be very difficult to ask for a letter of recommendation from your teachers. So we're not going to ask for that. Oh, and Sasha has been answering some questions, so thank you for that. Any other questions, or can we move on? I strongly welcome questions. This is the moment, guys. But if you don't, we can go back to them.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, hi, Franco.
If I am not selected from the opportunity, can I still get advice for the application process next year?
Definitely.
Okay.
We have many ways of helping you. I don't know if you have heard of our competitive college club program. That's, opportunity fund students have to take part of the competitive college club program. That's a program where we help students with everything they need to know for the application process, including how to make the costs of applying to universities in the US, the cost less expensive, okay? So we give you tips, and okay, you can ask a fee waiver for this, you can ask a fee waiver for that. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but those people who make it to the last section might be able to get vouchers to sit for one of the exams, the language proficiency exams, because I think we have enough vouchers to ask a good amount of people to sit for that exam. So that's already a benefit, So if you, going back to the level of English, if you are still if you're not sure what your level of English is, if you're kind of doubtful, apply anyway, and let us be the judge and not yourself, because sometimes you're very, very, very hard on yourselves, right? The same goes for the financial profile. If you don't meet the financial profile, which I'm going to discuss in a minute, right? But we see that you have a great profile to apply to universities in the US, you will be immediately considered to be part of the College Club cohort. Okay, so we do those things. Okay, we see a profile that is worth encouraging, right? If they are not fit for the Opportunity Funds scholarship, we are going to welcome you guys to College Club as well. And you can read more about the College Club program in our website as well. Okay, cool. Thank you, Franco. Where are you from?
From Mar del Plata.
Oh, I was there a couple of days ago.
It's pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
I think 30 degrees, maybe.
Yeah. So lucky you. Enjoy it while you still can with less tourists, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're going to pass on to section 4 if we don't have any other questions. Ali, do we have any other questions? No. Okay. So section 4 has to do with the family's financial circumstances. And here you're going to see that we have asked very personal questions regarding your financial profile. The thing is that we really need to know your financial profile to be able to determine if you are eligible or not for this scholarship. Okay, so we need to know what your parents do for a living. We need to know their incomes. Sometimes, well, we get the typical question of, well, what do I do? It's everything is in pesos, okay? Unless we say this is in dollars, okay? And we are aware of the fact that today your family might be earning one thing, and then in a month's time that can change. But we do have the date and the time when you applied. So we are aware of that as well. So the jobs, the income, if your family has any additional sources of income, yes. If it's yes, you then describe, okay? If any of your parents are retired or not, if you have siblings, brothers or sisters, and how many, and the ages, because it's not the same to have adult siblings than to have very young siblings that devote more time from you, like from your family, more resources, right? So all those things are very important for us to determine that. If your parents live together, if your parents are divorced or live separately, that is also a financial burden on the family because there are two different households to pay for, right? So those things we take into account. Well, relatives living with your family. Well, this is properties, family businesses. And the only question that you have to respond in dollars is this one. How much can your family contribute in USD per year to your education in the US? And this is an estimate. It can be 0, it can be 50, it can be whatever it is. But this is an estimate, and it's okay to write 0 if it's 0, okay? And it's okay to write 100, 500, whatever it is the number, so that we can determine your situation, okay? This part is very straightforward. In general, it doesn't bring any issues. I don't know if there are questions. Sasha, yes.
Yes, a problem I had when I was completing the application is my parents work in negro, so they don't have any records, and I was scared of being asked for records and not having them. So I put 0 in my mom's the amount she earns. Please don't do that because it's a problem later on. Just write with honesty what your parents earn, and it doesn't matter if you have like proof of income or anything. Education USA wants to know your situation and how you live, not what you declare or what you can declare. So
Exactly.
Just that.
We're aware that many people who fit the financial profile are people whose parents work like that, right? Not many. I mean, we have had different profiles, right? Sometimes it's middle class students, sometimes it's families with more of a financial burden. So we want to know your situation, and we need to know the truth, because one of the things that you're going to read somewhere in the profile is that we may ask for documentation to prove your situation. And documentation means like, well, show me that what you said is true, right? Like, so if at some point we found out that you were lying, you are going to be eliminated from applying. Like, you won't be considered a candidate anymore. So be true, be as clear as you can, okay? And if you have questions, come to us, okay? You have the office hours, as I mentioned before. You have our emails on our website. So you have help. You're not doing this by yourself. And you can also contact our Opportunity Funds candidates as well. Okay. Do we have questions on this? Nope. Okay. Study goals. First question is, what field or fields of study interest you and why? Okay. Do you need to know for sure? No. Can you say, I'm not sure? Yes. Can you write many fields that interest you? Yes. Okay. It's an approximation. We know that one of my favorite things about studying in the US is that you have a good amount of time to try and test what you like. Okay, you don't have, in most colleges, you don't have to declare your major until you're in third year. So you have a lot of time to explore what you like and what you don't like. So that's not an issue for us if you're undecided, or if there are 3 or 4 things that you like. But if there are 4 things that you like, I don't know, like chemistry, international relations, and it's okay. Write the fields that you're interested in. For example, Luca, who is from Bahia Blanca, he's not here today. He's not sure if he wants to study international relations or... Me estoy olvidando. Ali, do you remember? He wrote 2. Business? Well,
I don't remember either.
2 very different majors, and he still doesn't know, right? And it's a great opportunity for him if he gets a scholarship to go to the US and try and see what he likes, right? So, and generally our students start studying something and then they change. Many of our opportunity students who ended up in universities in the US, most of them have changed their major. So we have a look at it, but it's just a way to see what your interests are. It's not that we're going to choose based on what you want to study, okay? So it's just for us to learn more about you. Okay, so who wants to take this? What are your plans and goals after finishing college? This is something you would like to do. We don't know if this is going to happen, right? But this shows us what your aspirations are, the kind of person you want to become, okay? Or your ideas for your future. So I don't know, Lisandro, Sasha, Las Milis, any of you want to share what you wrote there?
I wanted to say something about this, because this question and the following ones were the 2 questions that prompted me to make my first university investigation. I had seen some earlier, but very like superficial investigation. And these two questions were like, well, I may have to read something or deepen a little bit in the information to know what to write, because those are some prompts that for someone that is not very that has not made that much investigation and is applying to see what could happen may be a little trickier. And well, my suggestion is that you can make a little investigation to see first if it's what you want really, and second to complete these questions. And these are like very personal questions. There isn't like answers, like correct answers. There are like cliche answers that will try to avoid them, but those they are very personal. Don't be afraid to like really put some of your real thoughts about that, because that's why the questions are there.
Yeah. What would be an example of a cliche answer?
Well, I think like I want to study in the US because it's the US. Like
Right.
they have I don't know. It's going for only going for the fact of studying abroad. There are other programs that can make you do that, and going to study because I don't know, you always wanted to study in the US is a little superficial, I may say. Like you lack of a real purpose on doing that. That's what the questions are asking for.
Yeah, and if you see, because we have removed a couple of questions because we got bored of reading the same thing over and over again. So now this section has less questions, right? So what are your plans and goals after finishing college, and the universities you're interested in and why? Okay, so is this a contract? Does it mean that if you picked 2 or 3 schools, then when you do the process with us, you have to stick to those schools? No, it's just to kind of see what kind of universities are in your radar, right? Like what is it that you've been interested in, and if you've done research or not, or if you have followed our advice or not. When in you know, we do have the 5 steps session, and we tell you how to look for universities, right? And we strongly encourage you to use those resources that we share with you. So yeah, do that and give us a genuine answer of your likes and dislikes. And about the plans and goals after finishing college, does any of you recall what you wrote there?
I
Sasha.
don't really remember what I wrote, but I know what I will write now.
What would you write now, Sasha?
So I know personally my like dream job is being a researcher, like working in the academia, and in the US it's a lot more easier than in Argentina. So I think I wrote about that because I think I felt the same when I wrote the application. And I think I will get in that, like, well, in the most universities in the US have this kind of program that will make me more. I remember what I wrote. I remember a phrase, like a sentence that I wrote in the application. I said that going to the US, I will have a lot more like research opportunities within the university. And even if I didn't like get a contract or a job in the US, coming to Argentina with like a degree and I don't remember the word, but like having work in research in a university there will help me open a lot of doors that I wouldn't like get the opportunity to do here. And with the universities, don't like think about it, but don't think too much. I was interested in studying in the US like a long time before I applied to the opportunity funds. So I didn't have any problem with like getting to know universities. I already had a few on my radar, but I think I wrote like super excited about a university I am not even considering to applying. So it's not like you're not making like a big deal with this.
Yeah,
Just like make your research. It's good to like get into this program already knowing what kinds of universities there are and what are you interested in, but it's just like the entrance to the application step in your life. So make your research, but it's not like you're super committed to what you're writing here. You may change your mind.
Exactly. Okay. Do we have questions so far? I don't know if Mili Olivera or Mili Reese, if you want to add anything.
Maybe about when you say why you want to study in a specific university, it's good if you say something unique about the university. Like Lisandro said, not saying stuff that can apply to many universities. Like, oh, I want to study in Columbia because I love New York City and or NYU because I love big cities. Okay, there are many schools in many big cities, not only in the US. Um, or yeah, general things that can be present in many schools of study. And something else I wanted to say. No, well, the same as Sasha. You don't have to be already committed to what you're writing here and be completely sure that you want to do that in the future, but just write and show your personality through your writing. I think that's a good thing. I remember I wrote in the question about my plans for the future, I think I wrote some very small things like I want to be able to speak more languages or get to know people different from me or from the people I knew before. So those are things that are not specific about your academic plans, but show who you are and what you're interested in.
Yeah. And one last piece of advice. Don't write that you want to live in the US and that's why you're doing the whole thing. It might be a secondary goal, but don't write that as your only goal, okay? And if you want to live in the US, explain why in detail, okay? And how you're going to plan to do that, because it's not impossible, but it's difficult to get there, okay? So make sure that you justify that answer in detail if that's your only plan, okay? Which can be, and we respect that, but it has to be well justified. Okay.
Yes, be with what just Carol just said. Know what you like, the opportunities you have. You're applying to an opportunity to study in the US. You don't know what's going to happen right now, and if you get like if you pass the like the application for the opportunity funds and you get the scholarship and you get to a university, you don't know what's going to happen after that. So don't be like, yes, I'm going to study in the US and then I will live there, and you don't know that you will pass any test or like steps. There are many steps before that. Just be conscious about that and write accordingly.
Thank you, Sasha. And we're going to pass it on to the creative writing section, which is the one that takes time, but it's the one that really shows us who you are, and what your priorities are. And it's the one where we have the most fun, because like it's the moments you have to be more creative and more yourself. Mili Oliveira, do you want to take this? Any advice? You like writing, right? Any advice on how they should be approaching the writing section? And then I'm going to ask for specific examples, okay? But what advice do you have?
Well, as Carlos said, I really enjoy writing. I really love it. So I don't know if it was easy, but I had like some idea of what I wanted to write. But I think to give some advice, I will say there are a lot of resources on the internet. For example, essays. It's not, these are not essays, but they can give you good examples of how you can write, how to write originally, maybe. Just not only answer the question like literally, but try to give it a different sense to make it original. I don't know, for example, the first question I wrote, that was a hard one for me because I couldn't think about anything. First thought of a scientist, for example, Tesla, but I think in the end I ended up writing about a philosopher that I would like to meet a philosopher because I think that having a chat with a person who had a lot of question, a lot of things, was a good way of just starting questioning things yourself. So it was like an experience. So I don't know, I just try to take a different approach of all the questions to make it more original, to have a more original question, an answer, sorry. And I think that's maybe the key, just to put your essence there in the text, to make it unique through your words and to show your personality in that too.
Yes, thank you, Mili. Sometimes, especially with a famous person in history, I was tempted to remove it because we were getting lots of Marie Curies and Maradonas and well, which is fine, but this is a moment, but then I said, no, I'm going to leave it, right? I'm going to leave it because this is when we have fun with the answer, because sometimes one of you wrote Marie Curie, I think, but the justification for yours, Sasha, was different from the typical justifications, right? And it was interesting the way you put it. So I was like, oh, we have another Marie Curie. Oh, but look what he said, you know? So it was different in your case. So, you know, as you said, as Mili said, try to reflect who you are and your essence, as Mili very well put it, in these answers, okay? Don't try to sound academic. If you're an academic kind of person, go for it. But if you really couldn't care less about meeting Marie Curie, don't put it there, okay? Okay, and this already Sasha mentioned, reflect on an idea or experience that makes you genuinely excited about learning. It's those things that you could say hours and hours on end listening about, okay? So those things that really make you passionate about learning. How did you spend your last 2 summers? Just be honest. You don't need to say that you were studying. If you were not, please, we appreciate people who like having fun, okay? It's actually very important to us that you have hobbies and that you have a moment to unwind. We insist so much on this, that you have hobbies and spaces to vent and to, you know, blow off steam, because the process is hard. Sasha, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I didn't lie on my application. What I put in there is true, but I only put like academic related things because I thought that I had to make like a good impression or something. And when I applied to MIT last month, they literally said like, please tell me what you do for fun. And please tell me what you do for fun in the summer. So be honest. But for me, like, not saying that I study will be a lie, because I do study over the summer, but I also hang out with friends and I don't know, I have other plans. So it's not necessary that you write like only about serious things. You can talk, be honest. If you spend your summer in a swimming pool and with like a smoothie on your hand, I'm a little envious because I don't have a pool, but write that because you just have to be honest. It applies to all of the application process. Be honest. It doesn't matter if it's not like the best thing you could come up to or the thing that they would like to see.
Exactly.
And the admissions officers at Education USA at our universities want to see you.
Yeah, it's the part where we have more fun because we really see who you are. Okay. So this is still from other years. What's your favorite word and why? This one is always fun. And this one is you. If you have if you could have a superpower, what would it be and why? I'm hoping to see many different things here. I don't know what to expect, but from the responses we already got, it's promising. It's promising and very telling of who you are. And then you have an optional task, which is writing a letter, a note to a roommate. So some people wrote an email, some people wrote a quick note. Sasha, for example, wrote a very quick note, and I was like, oh, this is actually an actual note. Some people wrote a letter, some people wrote like what it would be an email. But just remember that you're writing it to a friend or to a try to, if you choose to answer this, make sure that you do this thinking that you're writing to a colleague, like a peer, a friend, okay, a roommate. Don't write this as if an admissions officer was watching this, because it shows when you're trying to do that. And then the last part, it's just you signing, saying, okay, this is what I said is true. So e-signature is just writing your name, your full name, the date, and where you heard from us. Okay, that's the easiest part. So before we go, and before we pass on to questions. Do you remember your favorite words? Yes. Do you want to share with students?
I can. I have a very big problem with this prompt, but when I found the answer, I was like super excited to write about it because like having a favorite word is something very intense. Like I never thought about it before, but I think I wrote about the word goth because
yes,
I was really getting into the subculture at that time and like seeing a lot of getting to know a lot of new music and movies, and it kind of inspired me, not only because I thought that it will be a part of me, which it ended up being. Like I consider myself a gothic person, but it also prompted a lot of like I don't know how to say it, but I started to thought about like what I wanted to do with my life in other aspects besides the academics. I was always very interested in academics, but the goth movement is very like intertwined with the punk movement, and I know some of you might like hear a lot more about punk being tied with rebellion and like not being a good teenager. And I reflected a lot on like, well, I am super goth, I am super punk, but I'm also like the nerdy guy who just does his homework. How can I mix these two things, and how can I live with these two parts of me? So I had a lot of trouble, but I really enjoyed writing this essay.
Thank you.
I think it made me think about me in ways I never thought before, which is really fun. When an essay gets you to do that, it's super fun.
It's fun, but it's also hard sometimes, right? So again, start with time. Millie, your word, do you remember Millie's?
Yes, I remember mine. I think this was my favorite or one of my favorite questions. I chose the word bird, but in French, and it's kind of cliche, but I spoke about its structure and not the meaning. It's a silly word, but the structure and how I love the fact that it was pronounced completely different than how it was written, and the fact that it has all vowels and just one consonant and still sounds so elegantly. And I love that word. And it was when I learned that word, I wanted to learn more about French and the French language and stuff. So that's I think that question allowed me to speak about how I get obsessed about things regarding their structure, which may be like something that
I need
doesn't
to
have
go back to your applications and say, oh yeah, of course she said that. Millie Olivera, what about you?
Well, personally, I chose serendipity. That is
All
a word.
right.
Well, means that you found something good without looking for it. Well, I heard that in a word when I was like about in a song. Sorry, when I was about I don't know 13. I was really like yeah. Well, I'm young, but well, it hasn't like great meaning for me. But then I always thought of that word because it was just pretty. Well, then I listened to that song again, and I was going to different things in my life, and I just reflect on the fact that well, you can find I don't know a thing, maybe something you like, or money on the floor in the street, but also you can find that you have learned something good from something bad. I mean, you weren't looking for that. Even you can even think that it was something bad what happened to you, but in the end, you found something good because you could grow up and just learn from your mistakes.
Thank you, Millie. And Lisandro, I don't know if he's still there. I can't see
Yes,
the whole
I'm
grid.
here,
Yes.
but I don't remember at all.
Okay, it's okay. I'll look it up and let you know that later on.
Yeah, please.
Probably, if you don't remember, probably it was like, oh, well, what can I say? Oh, well, I'm going to write this.
No, I remember being very excited about that
Oh,
question and writing
okay.
quite a lot, but I don't remember the question,
Oh, we have to
the
check
word
then.
at all.
I'll check and
Yeah.
let you know later on.
Okay.
If I can, I'll do this now. Well, no, it will be a mess if I do it now because I don't have the other monitor. But if you could leave, I'm going to stop sharing and to be able to see your faces. And if you guys could leave with one piece of advice for those people who are considering applying to the Opportunity Fund Scholarship, what would it be? Any piece of advice or a word of advice, something that happened to you, anything. I know you have lots of advice. So who wants to start?
Well, something that
So,
we said a lot of times where be honest, that's super important. And also don't be scared of like feeling that you are not, I don't know if I will use the phrase good enough, but that you aren't where you think you should be to apply anywhere. I'm having that trouble right now with universities, and Caro it always reminds me like, just do it. You don't know what is going on the other side of the application, what the admissions officers or like the people at Education USA are thinking. Just do it. Just send the application and let's see what happens.
thank you, Sasha. Any other?
Yes, as we have said many times, do take time to write the essays, to review them. If you can send it to a friend or someone you know to take a look at those essays. I think that investing time on filling the forms really pays off. And well, that's it. The same as Sasha said too. Like do the work very patiently and send it, because you never know what could happen.
Thank you, Lisandro. Any other piece of advice? Mili? Ruiz,
Well,
Olivera?
um,
Yes, Olivera.
I will say that what I said before, I think that when you write, just try to show who you are and show your essence, as I said before, and not try to be impressive and write things that you think the other person will like or that will sound good. Just show who you are, show what you like, what you're into, and yeah, just they will. In that way, they will get to know you, because that's why it's so important. They will get to know you through what you write. So be yourself and don't write things that are not true, or that are that you're writing just to impress the others. So yes, that.
Thank you, Mili. And last but not least, Mili Ruiz.
Yeah, yes, I agree with everything that the others said. Being honest, completely important. But also not avoid thinking, okay, what do they want to hear? Always write what comes to mind first. And check your grammar before you send the
Yes.
and what else?
That shows that you're a detail-oriented person, right? That you are careful about how you present yourself to others, okay? So there are many tools to do that, right? So
yeah, and I don't know what else. Don't stress too much about it. If you have the profile, you will probably do it fine. And if you don't get into the Opportunity Funds program, then there's always Competitive College Club, and we have almost the same advice and like access to information. And in general, for the whole process, try not to lose time for yourself and for your friends and activities, because it's also part of who you are and what you need to do in order to do fine in the whole process and in the other parts of your process, and like the academic part as well. So yeah, that's everything I have to say.
Thank you, Mili. And yeah, please be yourselves. Please be yourselves. Don't be afraid to make a joke every once in a while when it's suitable to make a joke. We appreciate that. We read many applications, and when we read an application that is being cliche, it's like, oh, there we go again. So don't be afraid to be yourself. When you're yourself, we have fun and we enjoy and we want to meet you. You know, if you're the cliche kind of person who answers, probably it will be harder for us to want to. Like, the idea of the first impression is to get an interview, right? And to see you in person, like, oh, well, in a virtual interview, and to have a chat with you. So please be yourselves. It will be more fun for you and for us. Okay, so well, if you have any other questions, or if any other questions come up when you go over the application form, know that we have the office hours available, that you can write to us. Remember that office hours will probably not be available in January, so make good use of the time you have in December to do that. And we'll be really looking forward to reading your application, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our Opportunity Fund students for being here. Thank you to our advisors for being here. It's Nati, Maria, and Alisa, but we have other advisors. So there's lots of people who can help you, and we will be looking forward to learning more about you. Bye-bye, and I'll see you. We'll see you.